All right, fellas, here we go. Mother's Day edition. I was gonna call it Mother's Day massacre, or I don't know, some sort of headline for this
I
one.
was gonna
But
go with
I
that
mean,
too.
the Celtics. It wasn't quite a massacre, but it wasn't. There's not a whole lot of positive takeaways from this one. But nonetheless, John got the day off. I'm in here hosting. Josue Pavone, CLNS Media post game show. We got Jimmy Zascano, Sherrod A. Blakely, Nick Gelso. Jimmy, I'm surprised you're not too mad to join us. Like you were, I could feel the fumes coming from the group chat, and then you went silent for most of the second half. So I was like, Jimmy either turn this thing off, or he's just too mad to chime in on what's going on, man. I mean, listen,
Yo, it's
Evan
not about
Fournier.
me. I feel bad for all the moms who had to sit through this game today on their day. I got
I'm
moms
pretty
are
sure
crying
most
today because
moms
the Celtics.
listen. If your son wasn't playing in this game, you had no reason to watch.
Yeah,
No
you can
reason to
turn
watch.
that off.
It looked like
For all the
Pee Wee
Celtics fans
basketball.
out there, they have to make up for the day, right? And you got plenty of time. I mean, I guess that's a good thing but this is a matinee. So you can make up, you got plenty of time to make up for the day for what the Celtics for what they did for Mother's Day, man. The poor moms out there, the diehard Celtics fans out there that had to watch this.
They deserve better.
Nick, you're gonna say something. What's up?
Nick, what's up,
Welcome
buddy?
back, by the way.
I'm going to do
Welcome
my
back.
own Johnny Most today and just smoke while we talk, baby. No, seriously.
Come on, pass the
That can't
ball.
be
Come on, let's go.
There was no one could tell Nick to put that cigarette out right now. No one, because we were like, go ahead, man. We hear you. We feel you.
Gutless, heartless. It's the same thing I said in game 2 of the season. It's sad. The play-in should be fun, though.
I don't think so.
You don't believe that, Nick. Yeah, you don't believe
idea.
that.
And here's why. Here's why. It's not going to be fun if they play like this.
No.
It's not going to be fun if we see that Celtics team that sucks ass more than they should. That team, I don't like seeing that team. I would love to see them play their good game against a Charlotte team that's playing their best. That's an entertaining game. That would be a really, really good game. But I don't trust this team. And I don't trust him because I've got 60-plus games of receipts that validate why I shouldn't trust him.
Right, like this isn't fun. Like, look, what do we say after the Jason Tatum big 60-point game? Right? Oh, what an epic comeback, 32-point comeback. But if the Celtics, if it wasn't for them doing it every 2 weeks, where they get into this huge deficit, they climb out of it. Sometimes they win it, sometimes they don't. And it's like we've seen it so many times that we're unimpressed by a 32-point comeback win. Like, think about that. Like, that's how sick and tired we are of watching this happen, because we know how talented this team is. We know how good they can play. We know that if they put forth the right effort, they don't have to be having to come back from a humongous comeback, or come back from a huge deficit, rather. And that's exactly what happened on Mother's Day, matinee style. And I'll get into Jason Tatum in a second, but Jimmy, let's start with just the second half as a whole. I mean, we had a lot of curveballs thrown, right? And I guess that's what happens when the news dropped at halftime that Robert Williams was not going to return. So obviously you figured you're going to see a little Cornet out there, but did anyone expect to see the shooter Carson Edwards make an appearance when he did? I mean, no one.
You know what?
Celtics Twitter lost their mind when that happened.
At this point, listen, Josue, at this point, when you're getting your ass kicked the way they were, you got to just take your bag. You're not even reaching in your bag. You're just dumping that shit out, and whatever comes out, throw it out there.
whatever.
You got nothing to lose.
Like, okay, Carson, sure, why not? Go ahead.
Exactly.
But they had a little something going before that. No,
you know what?
I mean, that they had a little something going to start the second half. I love the approach. You had Kemba Walker going to the rim. You had Evan Fournier still cooking. You had the Miami Heat in the penalty. They commit 4 quick fouls in the opening 3 minutes of that second half. And I just felt like the Celtics could have capitalized more than they did.
Listen, Jimmy Butler was in cruise mode until it got real. Jimmy's looking around. You got Trevor Ariza looking like he's Kawhi Leonard 2.0.
Trevor Ariza from 2009.
Exactly.
On both ends.
You got Trevor Ariza like 7 teams ago. Trevor Ariza killing you. And you got Duncan Robinson getting shot after shot.
The dreads.
Jimmy Butler's just sitting back like, let me know when y'all need me, because obviously you guys got it cooking now. And when it got to 10 points, Jimmy Butler said, "All right, let's go. Let's close. Let's seal it.
Right. It's my time now.
It's my time."
So why didn't Jason Tatum do that? Why didn't Jason Tatum do that? Jimmy,
here's the difference. Here's the difference: is the Celtics. Jason Tatum did his thing on the offensive side of things, but the Celtics, once again, we can't, Josue, as much as I'd like to talk about the second half and what went well, we cannot skip the first half when the Celtics gave up more points than they have in, I think it was like 26 years or something
What was
like
it,
that.
79?
79.
79.
It was Max's rookie year.
First half points.
Damn.
I mean, you
That's
just
incredible.
you can't put together. That's effort. You can't put together effort like that right out of the gates. That you got a game at home. 1 o'clock start. I understand, these slow starts, but when the other team comes out firing, they take control. They set the tone. Jimmy Butler didn't have to go balls to the walls because he had other guys on his team getting it done. They didn't have to do much. They really didn't have to do much to score on these Celtics. Jimmy Butler didn't have to go out there and drop 20 in the first half. The difference was they were getting more stops on the defensive end. And then when Jimmy Butler did his thing late in the game, that's all he needed to do. Jason Tatum goes out there and drops 30 or whatever it was. That's fine and dandy. But if the Celtics can't get a stop on the other end, it's gonna take it's gonna take another 50 or 60 point performance from Jason Tatum in order for you to scratch out a win in overtime. And I said this a week ago when it happened. I was like, great comeback, all-time performance by Jason Tatum. But if the Celtics consistently do this, or they get in a habit of falling behind like this, it's not going to turn into wins because you're not going to get 50, 60 points from a player every single game. You just can't expect that as good as Jason Tatum is. And what happened tonight? Tatum gave you 30, which is great. If he averages 30, that's, he's leading the NBA in points most likely, or right up there. It's just, again, it comes down to defense and effort on that side. And you just don't see it. You can't go down 20, 25, 30 points a game and expect to claw your way back in the second half. Everyone says, well, at least they fought. At least they came back. It's the NBA. You can't expect the team to go up 30 and just consistently build that lead. Of course, they're going to take the foot off the gas a little bit. They're going to play some of their bench guys. They're going to take Butler out of the game and try to rest him and then put him back in when the opposing team comes back into striking distance. So for me, the comeback, okay, it looks like a more respectable loss if you even want to call it that, because I don't think it is. But this was a game that once again the Celtics were outplayed, outclassed, out hustled, out everything from start to finish.
You said it, Jimmy. Outclassed. That might be the key to this season. I'm going to hear Sherrod in one ear about effort. Jimmy outclassed, and they were. They were outclassed again over and over. Poor Tommy Heinsohn. I mean, he must have been.
Turned it off.
Sherrod, he had to be rolling over in his grave. I couldn't even hear him. He couldn't even find something good to be a homer about today. And I'm listening to Jimmy, too, about comebacks, right? We remember 10, 11, 12. Those guys did this on the regular. Remember, they'd fall behind and come back, but they were legends. They had heart. They were champions. These guys, there's no leader. And they don't – it's the same thing every game. The comeback always falls short. Go ahead, Sherrod.
Yeah, I mean, they don't seem to understand that when you dig yourself a ditch – if you dig a 6-foot ditch and you get 5 feet out of it, guess what? You're still in the damn ditch. Mm-hmm. Stop digging yourselves these 6 feet ditches, getting 5 feet out, thinking like, man, we made a nice run there. We're almost out. No, stop it. Just stop it. When I think about this team, the more I watch them play, and the more frustrated I get watching them play, I'm reminded that Michael Shrewsbury, who is now the head coach of Penn State, was their defensive czar. And when I look at this team more now than ever, if you're Danny Ainge and you're Brad Stevens and you're trying to figure out what can we do to basically give us a significant upgrade without just absolutely reshuffling the deck, get an assistant coach whose strong suit is defense. Because right now, you look at this team right now, easily 5-10 games that they've blown because they did not play average defensively. If you had 10, 15 more average games defensively, they're probably in that 4 or 5 conversation easily. And with some room to spare, not like among like 3 or 4 other teams. They're like the 4th team in the East. They have to get better defensively because it's pathetic seeing what we're seeing out here. They shot them. I mean, think about it. They gave up 130 freaking points in regulation. 79 at the half.
To the Heat.
79 at the half.
That was a Don Nelson team.
We got Bobby.
Wow.
We got Bobby.
Wow, yeah, let's get out.
Darth Vader
just arrived. Who's that? Who's coming?
Yeah, Darth Vader.
Coming at us from TD Garden, and I'm sure he's got plenty to say on this. Bobby, first of all, what was TD Garden like? I mean, especially in the second half, the fans started leaving. What was the vibe like, and what's your overall take about that second half of the Celtics? Actually, you know what? No, scratch that. Give us your take about the first half. 79 points. What was the crowd like taking in that 79-point first half by the Miami Heat.
Well, it was actually a "Let's Go Celtics" chant, trying to give them a little life with 2-3 minutes left to go in that second quarter. But then the booze started raining down.
That's what I heard
at halftime. Yeah, it's the same thing as the Spurs game, except they didn't finish the comeback.
Looked up and realized they had 79. I'm sure that's when everyone started booing. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I felt like I was watching the Spurs game all over again, except this time they didn't cross the finish line at the end. They only got within 6 or so. 61% shooting in that first half of the Heat. And again, everything Sherrod said there's true. That's not even that great of an offensive team in Miami. I know they've been great the last 4 or 5 games, but overall, especially in their bench lineups with Dwayne Dedmon and some of those guys that come in there, you shouldn't be getting punked by those guys, but they're leaving him open backdoor. They're losing him in the pick and roll action. They're letting him find shooters on the short roll. Like, to me, him beating them up the way they did said as much as anything else. Because, Jimmy Butler's going to get his in the second half. These shooters are going to get free for some shots, but you can't let Dwayne Dedmon take advantage of you the way he did.
And you look at a guy like, Bam Adebayo, who's a great player, but 20 points on 5 freaky shots from the field?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect to Bam Adebayo, but you're not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You're not Hakeem Olajuwon. You're freaking Bam Adebayo.
Right.
You're a good player.
You're not Taco
20 points on 5 shots.
Yeah. He's not one of those. He's not going to get a bunch of points in the paint and you got the footwork down. Yeah, he's not, like you said, he's not Olajuwon out there.
Guys, all I know is I'm watching over at the screen, and all I see is I don't have my mask on me, but Brad pulling on the mask. When he gets pissed off with the questions.
That's when he's mad.
He's on mute. He's all pulling with the mask. I got to do a mashup. And poor Abby Chin, she looks so depressed. Abby, she looks like she's ready to pack it in tonight.
Well, join the crowd.
Yeah, I was going to say, welcome.
Welcome. With you.
I was going to say everyone feels that way. All right. Well, another thing I want to ask Bobby is, again, that second half. But before you joined us, we were talking about the calls from Brad. I mean, Carson Edwards out there. Of course, we found out about Robert Williams at halftime, and we expected to see a little Cornet. That made sense. But the Carson Edwards
about that
call,
lineup?
I mean, yeah, what did you think about that? I mean, I thought they had some momentum there, and then he shook things up in that third quarter, and the lead that they cut down to, what was it, about 12 or 13? It went right back up heading into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it went up to about 23 during that stretch. It's all we talked about for 3 straight games now. The late season experimentation to go with the win at this point. And I get it. It worked. He hit 3. He got to the free throw line. He actually played some solid minutes there. But then they're right back to Pritchard alongside him. They're trying to go small, 3-guard style stuff into the fourth. They're just mixing and mashing stuff. And I get it. Cornet had to come in because Rob went down at halftime. But Edwards hasn't played since March. Yeah, he's probably gotten a little practice time, but how do you expect this group to be connected defensively if you're bringing in a guy like Edwards who hasn't played real minutes since late March? Again, the offense wasn't the problem tonight. They scored 124 points. You need some defensive help, and that's not what Edwards is going to give you.
No, and that to me, when I saw him out there, that just kind of blew my mind because, again, you were doing a pretty good job at that half of the court without him. It's the other half of the court that was the reason behind you getting your asses kicked. I don't understand that. I don't get it. I mean, but the more I think about it, it's kind of symbolic of this team. They think they can shoot their way out of any and every situation. We're getting our asses kicked defensively, so what are we going to do? We're just going to keep taking more shots. We're going to shoot our way out of this. That doesn't work. It doesn't work.
I can't imagine Brad Stevens is telling them to keep shooting. It just can't be the case. It can't be the case.
Well, what kind of message?
Well, the other thing is,
what kind of message are you sending when you put in Carson Edwards? I mean, was he a defensive locksman?
I'm trying not to have the rage tonight. I mean, I'm trying not to have.
Wrap it up, man. We told you, look, you could smoke your cigarettes, you can chill. We're here to help.
All right, fuck it, I will.
Help you talk through this.
He's like, okay.
All right, here it goes. No, I mean, I
twist my arm.
Truthfully, I just don't understand. This is just a replay of the entire post-game show. 70 games we've played, right? How 71 the Celtics have played. It's pretty much been this straight through.
There's games. 4 more, yeah.
Yeah, 68 games, right? 68. I mean, we added Sherrod, thankfully, to the bunch here. He just added the same message. We've all been saying the same thing. There's nothing else to say, guys. These These guys suck.
They're done.
Let me
Very
say
Glasses off for emphasis.
Heartless.
I like it, Nick. I like it.
people, gutless. Yeah.
the question I have is why would, and I didn't even think Edwards was the problem. Edwards was not the issue today. I thought he was fine.
Right,
No, he did
what I'm
fine.
saying by
Yeah.
But
that,
no,
Jimmy,
let me
is
finish
just
though. Let me finish though.
call,
Yeah, I mean, what I'm
call
saying is,
overall. Yeah.
I think that, at this stage in the season, you go with the guys who you're expecting to see in the playoffs, and Pritchard's that guy that we've all said here is in the playoff rotation or the play-in rotation, whichever one you want to call it.
Circle of
So
trust. That's right.
I don't understand why they would go away from that. I also felt like this was a game where you could have probably used more of Neesmith. I know he got about 20 minutes, which is typically okay, but what he gives you on both ends, that's more than what Edwards can give you. And I know that the positions are completely interchangeable there, but there's still a way to easily work him into that lineup. And what he's giving you right now is more than what Edwards can give you. His shot is falling, and
He was
his
awesome
energy,
again.
his hustle out there. I mean, on a day where the Celtics are honoring Tommy Heinsohn, I think him and Smart, Neesmith and Smart, kind of embody what Heinsohn was all about. What he looked for. And I'm not saying, it's Tommy Heinsohn Day. How could they not play Neesmith? I'm just saying that style of play would have helped the Celtics possibly a little bit more than somebody like Edwards or Pritchard, who wasn't really having it today either.
They don't care about. I mean, I don't want to say they don't care about Tommy, but like that stuff, I don't think.
I know they don't care about Tommy. I'm just saying.
No, I'm not saying that. That's not what I said. I'm saying I just don't think the magnitude.
It's not on the top of their minds.
No, if
I
that's
know. I'm not saying it is.
If they can't win games based on the fact that they have to go to the play-in, I don't think Tommy's going to make a difference. Sorry, Tommy. God rest his soul.
And that for me is what is most frustrating about this particular loss. The fact that you knew damn well that if you win this game, you win the head-to-head series with Miami, gives you a shot at locking up that number 6 seed. And that is important if you are going to be a team that you say can do some things in the playoffs. Now you put yourself in a situation where you literally have to win out in order to feel comfortable at that 6th spot. And even if you do, you're going to need help. You no longer control your destiny of getting into the playoffs. And I don't think any of us would have thought at the beginning of the season that we would be coming up to the final 4 games wondering, are the Celtics going to be in the playoffs or not? Because that conversation would most than likely involve a key player or two being hurt. That ain't the case. You look at the way Fournier is playing now. Fournier is playing better. Kemba is playing better. Jason is doing more things offensively. But the one thing that has not caught any type of traction with this team is defense. They are a putrid team at that end of the floor. And it's not one – and the reason is real simple. Because collectively – they just don't – the effort isn't there. Defense is so much about effort. It's not about X's and O's. It's about how bad do you want to keep that man from scoring on you? How bad? When Marcus Smart is out there, I feel his effort more times than not is pretty damn high. Neesmith, pretty damn high. The rest, no.
Yeah. I wasn't.
And who are the rest?
And who are the rest?
Especially in the first half. I mean, the transition defense was terrible. And we talked about that before this game, right? We said that's the one thing about the Miami Heat that scares you if you're a Celtics fan. And we saw exactly how explosive that offense can be. And it's not just about three-point shooting. It's just that when those guys are out in front of, when they're in the flow of things, that offense can really get going. And the Celtics just have not been able to stop the bleeding. It's been a pattern all season long. Bobby, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I know Jimmy and Sherrod just mentioned Smart there. I wasn't that impressed by him tonight. And it wasn't the situation I've seen with him the last 4 or 5 games where he didn't seem to be moving well or getting involved all that much. He was actually doing a little too much, I thought, especially in that third quarter. And he actually got put on the bench. We haven't seen that a lot this year where he got a little too reckless, throwing some balls away, taking some ill-advised shots. And Brad sat him down and put a 3-guard lineup out there with the bench unit that you talked about because he lost control down the stretch there. And he was the point man on Jimmy Butler, hitting 8 shots in that second half to basically shut down this comeback. Time and time again, Butler took him to the rim. Butler was drawing free throws. Butler even hit a 3. He only had 19 threes on the season before this, and he hit his 20th, which I thought was the biggest shot of the night. Smart's got to be better. He's got to be more in control. And I know you want to set a tone. I know you want to take advantage of the free spaces out there, but I saw a lot of bad shots. I saw turnovers, and I saw him getting taken advantage of on defense.
Oh, this was a bad game for him. There's no doubt about that. This was one of his worst games,
really?
actually.
What?
Did you see the play? Jimmy, do you see the play where he flopped and they gave up a wide open 3 to Robinson in the corner? Like, come on. You cannot do that if you're Smart.
Yeah, that was bad.
Jimmy, the thing about Smart, and we all know this, is his numbers are never going to tell you whether he had a good or bad game. I thought that for Smart, it's about impact. And I thought this was one of his least impactful games that we've seen for a lot of the mistakes he made. But I thought this was one of the few games where it seemed as though the frustration of guys not buying into what this team has to do defensively got caught up to him, and he tried to do too much because he doesn't feel guys around him are doing enough. And when you look at what and so again, not excusing his play because he definitely had a bad game, but I can understand the thinking behind why he was trying to do more than he normally does because nothing was working for the rest of the team, and guys didn't seem like they were understanding the importance of this game. I would much rather see guys trying to do too much than not trying to do enough. And we're having too many games with this team where guys aren't trying to do enough. And that's frustrating. Especially for a guy like Marcus, whose game is built on effort.
Yeah, you can't give the ball away, though. You just can't.
Who are you going to put in his place, Bobby? I mean, no one else is playing.
Right. Carson Edwards, that's who you're going to replace him with?
Well, they ultimately did.
Marcus tonight, he
how'd that work? He made one shot.
Six turnovers. So
maybe
it's forcing the issue a bit.
Marcus has played this year like there's something going on off the court. Now, I don't know anything, right? But I'm just saying, you remember the year where he smashed his hand up? He had this same type. This is a complete assumption. I have no idea. But it could also just be he's tired of the only one that's going out there and having a heart that's beating. You know?
Listen,
I mean,
the turnovers are one thing, and those are inexcusable, and there were plenty of those today. Not just Marcus Smart, but 6 is obviously way too high for
was
one
bad
of your
in
guards.
that sense, yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and say that he had one of his worst games of the season or that he was one of their biggest problems today. I mean, he actually shot the ball better today than he has in tons of games this season. And I do, and Joshua noted it, he does sometimes have to do more than maybe what he would like to do or maybe what anybody would like to see him do out there because of the lack of, I don't know if the word's effort or the lack of just people able to do things around him out there in the court. Like you said, I mean, Pritchard, you got guys going out there in the court that just aren't contributing the way they need to. And again, I talked about earlier, if you thought Smart was a liability out there today, then why isn't Nesmith getting more minutes? Why is he only getting 19 minutes when, again, Nesmith's playing playing the best basketball of his career? So if that's a common threat or a common thought that everyone thinks Marcus Smart had an awful game today, then Nesmith should have got way more time than what he did.
I think you think of that next year. This year, you still need Smart. You still need him to be involved and connected to everybody. But next year, could Nesmith fill that kind of role? I mean, you see the kind of stuff he's doing. You see the shooting he brings to the table. Even a little bit more ball handling at this point. He's never going to be Smart as a passer and ball handler, but he's showing signs in that sense. I see what Fournier did tonight. And as we get closer to that offseason, and I've been saying this back to the trade deadline, Marcus Smart's going to be the guy this offseason who there's a huge decision on.
Well,
the contracts.
Wait, hold on. Trod, you made a face in the middle of that, so I want to see what that was about. Was that premature? Nesmith taking on that Smart role?
I hear what Bobby's saying, and really, when you look at the way they play, you look at their books. There's a lot that it does make sense. But here's my problem with that. What is the biggest issue that this is affecting this team right now? Your defense is putrid. So then you go get rid of the one guy.
Right.
Hey, Nesmith and Fournier defend. It's not that level. But again, what have we said all year? Smart hasn't been himself on that end.
No disrespect to Fournier or Nesmith, but they ain't Marcus Smart defensively. Not even
close. They're not, but this goes to show that defense, if it's not a team, if the team's not buying in, it almost doesn't matter how good you have as one defender is on your team because the other team's just going to get through the cracks. I mean, look at Marcus Smart's your defensive leader and maybe your leader, and we're talking about a Celtics team that might not make the playoffs this year. So really, I understand his value to the team, and I understand that it's probably not really his fault because of it's a lot of the players around him possibly. But at some point, you have to say, okay, well, what this guy's value to the team, we understand what his value to the team is, but if other guys aren't buying in around him, that value kind of is diminished a little bit, right? He might be worth way more to another team who has players around that can make his value actually stand out. He might be going balls to the walls every game, but if the 4 guys out there on the court around him aren't, then having one guy who plays defense out there isn't going to do shit for you. And as we've seen today.
You know, and then you take
let's talk about
this team. You take Marcus Smart off the team. You might as well put an Orlando Magic uniform on this team, because you're going to have no emotion.
Let's get back to Jason Tatum, right? We had that conversation before this game about how Jimmy Butler represents. What was it exactly? I forget the word exactly, but something to the extent of the Miami Heat's, let's say, best version of themselves, right? Let's just say that. If Jason Tatum, if he's not that guy on both ends, is that an issue here? Like in the sense of being maybe more vocal on defense, maybe more demonstrative. Like, is this first half woes of the Celtics that's so part of their identity and who they are this year? Like, how much of that do you say? I'm not necessarily saying that you put on Tatum as a blame, but does Tatum sort of have to grab the team, you know, and say, hey, listen, guys, we got to really buckle down here and play harder defense?
I mean, he's part
that's
of
what
what's
Jimmy
going
is for
on.
Miami. That's what Jimmy Butler is for Miami.
I think it's hard.
Jimmy Butler gives the game what it needs. I mean, I thought for most of this game, like I said, I think Jimmy Butler was in cruise control because everyone around him was doing their job.
That's what everyone around him too.
Right. And so, but when the game got tight, Jimmy was like, get on my, as Max would say, get on my shoulders, on my back, fellas. Ride me. I got this.
Promised land.
Exactly. And that's exactly what Jimmy Butler did. I mean, he did not seem to be fully engaged in being that dude until the fourth quarter, and it got to be a 10-point game.
I love him.
Tatum has that, and you know, and again, it's revisionist history, but damn, Juwan Johnson, Jimmy Butler, another story, another day.
Wow.
Wow. But
I mean,
you gonna play that card today?
I did. Happy Mother's Day.
Show right now.
Happy Mother's Day.
Exactly. My mama told me to play that card. But no, but Tatum, I think Tatum does have to be, I think, a little bit more of a leader at the defensive end of the floor, because he does have the physical tools to be a very good defender, and we've seen that from him. Remember when he was a rookie, the reason why he was playing significant minutes was because of what he did at that end of the floor. Everyone knew he could score, but no one really knew how impactful he could be as a defender, using that length, using his lateral quickness, using all the tools that we see at a very elite level offensively, but to keep his man from scoring defensively. We don't see that nearly as much, and I'm okay with that because, again, when you are one of the top-tier players in the league the way I think he's trending to be, something's got to give. You can't just be – there are very few guys who are exceptional upper echelon scorers and exceptional upper echelon defenders, but Tatum has to be better than what we've seen this year, and I think he will be better. But they need to do something to shake this thing up for next year, whether it's adding a defensive-minded coach.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, that's funny you mentioned that first game, because from the very beginning, Jason Tatum, I mean, not a lot of people remember, but the Celtics did make a big comeback in that game in Cleveland after, Gordon Hayward went down, and Tatum had a lot to do with that, but especially on both ends. He was coming up with huge defensive stops.
Well, what's the difference this way? This year, the offensive load on him is tremendous. And you can see, if you're a guy like Butler who's deferring to teammates and building them up a lot, I think it becomes a little bit easier. So Tatum has a ways to go on offense, too, to offload some of that burden onto his teammates. Of course, the Heat have better teammates, but a lot of these guys are young. Butler has helped build these guys up. When you're trying to do everything on offense, it becomes harder to become that guy who impacts the defensive end of the floor. So I give Tatum a slight pass in that sense this year, but on both ends, it's stuff that he has to work on and grow in to be the leader of this team. We know he's the leader of this team in the scoring department, but in the defensive area, in the passing area, and all these different places, it's got to come along much faster if this team's going to want to get somewhere one day.
And that's the challenge for Tatum. And I'll pass you real quick, Jimmy. He's got to grow into that role. And, to me, the way he's played thus far, it's been a blessing and a burden, because he's shown such tremendous promise at such an early age. And with that promise comes responsibility. But can he grow as quickly in terms of his responsibility and leadership as he has as a player? That's the challenge that I think he's really trying to work through now. And we're watching it kind of unfold before our very eyes.
Yeah, I think both of you guys kind of nailed it. So I guess I'll just kind of sum it up. It's like, this is what happens in the NBA, right? A player comes into the league, a rookie or second-year guy, they cut their teeth on the defensive side. That's how they get in the game. That's how Nesmith has found his playing time, right? Because of the effort he's shown. And I know that they aren't similar players, but it's what you do on the defensive end that earns you that court time. Now, Tatum's a little bit different because highly touted, player coming into the league, and everybody knew what he could do on the offensive end, so everybody was looking for that. But what happens to these young superstars is as their roles get bigger, they focus way more on the offensive end. And Bobby's right. Tatum's been asked to do way more this year because of the injuries or the lack of other options on the offensive side. So a lot of his energy and a lot of his focus has been on the offensive side of things. But it really has taken a hit on the defensive end. And that's why we're seeing these teams coming in and dropping 60, 70 points at halftime. And Tatum can still finish with 30, 40 points, and they still lose the game. Again, you need a historic performance.
Got to be
like
everybody.
What we got a week ago from him in order for them to claw out a win. It's just not going to happen. So whether it's Tatum, whether it's Brad, or whether it's Ainge, they need to get together and figure out what it's going to take so that Tatum can still play offense, but they're also going to need to find players who want to play defense, who buy into the defensive side of things. And the problem with this Celtics team, I don't think they have enough assholes, because when you're an asshole, you play defense. And that's why Jimmy Butler is so good at playing both sides of the ball. And that's why Pat Beverly is good at both sides of the ball, and Draymond Green. And I mean that as a term of endearment. If you're an asshole in the NBA, that means you try hard. You're not out there trying to make buddies and be friends. You get under players' skin. You get under them. You play 48 minutes of basketball, and you walk off the court with less friends than you maybe walked on the court on the other side. And there's not enough players on the Celtics team that go in there with that mentality. There's one, Marcus Smart. And again, he can't do it all.
Josue knows it. Sherrod knows it. We did the locker room. The question was asked, when was the last time you saw Tatum or Brown defend one of their teammates and get a technical, or get into a bit of a scuffle? I still am yet to think of one time. The closest I've seen them get feisty is Tatum getting in LeBron's face his rookie season.
A little bump, yeah. You know who I actually saw do it tonight was Neesmith. Neesmith snuck in front of
him. He's not the leader. That's like Sherrod says, Neesmith, Marcus, and he's right. But the problem is the leaders don't do it, right? The leaders of the team don't do it. So
you don't have to be a leader, though, to do it.
Brown wasn't out there.
They have to inspire.
That's what I always look. I always say the
like
turning point, or the part of LeBron's career that made him a champion was when he really started to take a serious stance, or at least grab everyone, galvanize his team on the defensive end of the floor. I mean, I just always thought, like, heading into this season, or even maybe next year, heading into this era of Tatum's career, right, where it's no longer a secret, or it's no longer it's when, it's he is that guy. He's going to lead this team. And I just think that's a part of his game that's next, just being a more of a force on the defensive end of the floor. He has the body for it. He has the athleticism. And I think he has the IQ. I really do. People, obviously because of the influence that Kobe Bryant had on him, there's constant.
Kobe, huge asshole.
I also see
one of the biggest.
But no, I also see, guys.
Again,
I also
it's a good
see
thing.
that LeBron in him. He has the LeBron type of style of play that translates on both ends of the floor. I think he's capable of that.
I'd love to see him go work out with the Dream, with Hakeem.
And you know what? To Jimmy's point, when LeBron turned into a villain, turned into asshole LeBron, yeah, he stumbled once in the finals, but then he eventually got that ring.
Yeah,
like that was the
Josue, it's not going to be Tatum. He's a finesse player. He's a guy who's going to do it with his skills, with his moves. Even if, like Nick said, he adds to his post repertoire, and I think he has a decent one now. That just isn't the style that the Celtics play. It's got to be Brown, and I think Brown is the one who has it in him. You hear him say all the time, "I'm one of the best shooters in the draft." People just didn't, realize it with me. He's always asserting himself. You see those intense moments with him.
Yeah,
I think, and even defensively, I think that's who he can be. But he's got to be empowered.
That's
Bobby,
the thing.
Bobby's right.
But the point that Bobby made, that last point about being empowered, that's the key. Because here's the thing about Jalen. When you watch Jalen play, there are periods in the game when he's playing well where you can see he's angry, where you can literally see the pissed offness come out.
Yep.
Tatum can drop 45, 50 points, and you wouldn't know if he had 4 or 5 points. Just by his demeanor. And there's a lot of positives that can come about when you have that even kill demeanor. But at some point, you need somebody who brings the heat. You need someone who brings that fiery anger to the floor, because you need that emotion. This is an emotional game. And at some point, you need a balance of guys on your roster who have that even kill demeanor that Tatum brings, which is value in that. But you need someone who can bring the heat. And Marcus Smart does that to some extent, but Jaylen Brown can do it to another level. We have seen him when he locks guys up defensively and gets out in transition, which I love. I love when he starts to break.
Gerard,
what's that?
We have seen the Celtics without Tatum win without him, have Brown lead everything comfortably, and then be a competent, great team without him. We've seen Tatum be on the floor without Brown and have a great game like he did today, solid night, but they're missing something when Brown's not out there. And they're missing something when Brown is out there and he's not involved, or he's, as Joe Slay talks about in the past, down on himself, not getting the ball enough. I don't know the answer to it. I wish I did, but beyond like him being out with injuries, when he is out there, how can you keep him involved, keep him on that same level as Tatum? Because Tatum's probably going to be the better player in the end. Brown's making big strides, so, make that gap smaller. But I just feel like there shouldn't be as big of a gap between the 1 and 2 on this team as there seems to be.
They need a playmaker. I mean, I think they need someone who that's like their job. Their job is to, and Marcus does a good job, but that's not that's not a natural position for him to be in. Marcus is a good facilitator, and to be candid, I wish he was the second or third best facilitator, because if he's the second or third best, that means you're really, really good. They need someone whose strong suit is getting guys the ball in position where they can be effective and can be solid defensively.
And don't say Rondo.
I was going to say his name, but they need someone like that. Because here's the thing, like, when I think back to
Rondo right now, what do you mean, Nick?
Yeah, man. Now you look at some of the top teams. They have guys who can facilitate who aren't necessarily their best scorers. Like LeBron is a phenomenal facilitator, but Anthony Davis, that's the guy that they lean on to get buckets. Yeah. You look at those Detroit teams that I cover. Richard Hamilton was the best scorer, but Chauncey was the one that ran the show. Here in Boston, Tatum can be your best scorer, and he should be, because he's that good. But that doesn't mean he needs to be the facilitator. That doesn't necessarily mean he needs to be the one guiding the ship. He has to be on the front line. No question about it. But he doesn't have to necessarily be the one guiding it. Again, his demeanor doesn't really facilitate that fiery, get in your face, do as I say, not as you want to do. That's not who he is. But they need someone who has that in them. And I just don't. And Jaylen, to me, when you start going down a roster of guys who can play, guys who make a difference when they're out there, and guys who got a little bit of that asshole that Jimmy was talking about in them, Jaylen is that dude.
We talk about Rondo, right? Because you do describe him perfectly. That is Rondo. But I'm afraid that Brad Stevens can't control Rondo's ego.
But that ship is sailed. That ship is sailed. We're not going to talk about Rondo.
That's why you're winning 3/4 of the league, because your coach can't manage personalities, it seems.
With those glasses, I like it.
It's interesting because they did.
Real quick. I just want to remind everyone. We're heading to the locker room shortly. I know Nick is going to head out first, and then, the rest will follow, I believe, right? So we'll do that in about 10 minutes, guys. So if you haven't downloaded the locker room app, guys, we strongly encourage you guys do it, because this one should be another good one. Not last night, but 2 nights ago, there was a lot of venting going on, man. You guys had me cracking up.
That was a good intervention session. I felt much better after that.
That was a great session, and you guys make it that great. Like that's the reason why it's such a fun after show to hop on with us, and we talk about literally. It's not just Celtics, right? We just talk about everything. We were a little all over the place the other night, but
it's like going to therapy.
For Celtics fans. Yeah,
Jimmy, I thought you were about to say it's like going to homeschool, Jimmy. That's what I thought you were about to say.
No, it's that one's like that. It's nothing like that. You won't catch me in homeschool, man.
Where's Princess Leia, man? I mean, wasn't he Princess Leia on the poster? Jimmy?
Yeah, whoever designed that. I have to have
Nick had to bring that up, didn't you, Nick?
I did a video this morning. I pulled that part out. All it was Sherrod giggling the whole time, and Jimmy going, I got to find out who did this. I got to find out who did this. I
wasn't going to say anything about that, Jimmy, because you might.
It wasn't me, Jimmy. It wasn't me.
Yeah, we're going to. That's going to be the last promo they cut. We'll put it that way.
So, what are the what are the chances we see Jaylen Brown Tuesday? Like seriously, I think you have to if you're the Celtics. Right? Just even if it's a risk, you have to play him, right? Are we definitely going to see him Tuesday?
I mean, only to me, you don't play him if this injury is serious enough to where you think that he could re-aggravate it and be out for some, if not all, the playoffs, playing game, whichever, however you want to describe it. But if he's like at 75, 80%, I think you got to play him.
They gave Rob that shot today, and I thought he gave them some decent minutes early, but it ultimately wasn't worth the kind of pain he was going through, which is concerning with him too. He didn't play in that second half. So I don't think they're going to do it with Brown. I don't think they should push him. I think we're starting to come to an acceptance here that this team's going to be in the play-in tournament, so you just got to be ready for that, get home court for that, and go and take care of business of the Hornets there and play whoever you play in that first round. Ultimately, it stinks to be there, but that's just what they're going to have to go through at this point. Again, health over seeding. This is a critical seeding difference here. You don't want to be in a one-game playoff, but you do also get the leeway if you lose that game to play another game for the 8th seed. So I want Brown ready for that. I want Brown 100% for that. And or at least I think that if the team gets to that position, they'll turn it up for one of those games. But who knows? We don't know with this team.
I agree. I mean, you don't want to be limping into that play-in game. So if you just accept the fact that you're going to be a 7 or 8 seed, like you said, that gives them 2 chances to win a game. And if they can't, then guess what? They didn't deserve to be in the playoffs anyway. Yep. So we learned a little bit sooner than we would have that this team just wasn't going anywhere in the playoffs anyway. So really, the Celtics should beat whoever that matchup is, the 8 or the 9 team. And if they don't, then we learned they are who we thought they were, essentially, right? The old famous quote, they are who we thought they were. That's exactly who this team would be if they can't beat one of those 2 teams. They don't deserve a series against the Nets or the Sixers or the Bucks. And honestly, who the hell would want to watch it if they can't beat the Wizards or the Pacers?
Good God.
What are the chances they go full small ball? I think that might happen. I mean, without Rob,
if they play the Nets.
Yeah, you got to do it against the Nets.
Rob should be shut down until the play-in game.
Yeah, Rob should be shut down until next year.
Court this week.
Right.
What are you going to do in the playoffs, really?
Not till next year.
I mean, is there actually a chance to do anything in the playoffs?
No, not really, but you do want to go as far as you can. You don't want to just bow out. And
they've already bowed out, in my opinion. I think they bowed out quite a while ago.
You can make things interesting.
I don't think you can say that without Brown.
Yeah,
be down
they can make things interesting and win a game or 2, but they're not going to put any fear in anyone's heart, because here's what teams that are looking at the Celtics on their schedule are thinking. All we got to do is play moderately hard for 35, 38 minutes, and we're going to win. We don't have to shoot, and we're going to get great shots.
That is
right. We're going to be in position to win. We're probably going to be up by double digits because it seems everyone goes up by double digits against them. All we got to do is just stay the course, and we'll be fine.
Well, you know who I'm excited for come playoff time, and I've been hyping him up for games now. I was going to say Evan Fournier. Evan Fournier has been one of the best players in the NBA, period, over the last 4, 5, 6 games. Ever since he was talking about his COVID conditions there.
Bobby.
You have to empower this guy to be a leader on this offense. We talk about facilitators, 8 assists here, 30 points in this game. Only reason that the Celtics were even in this game was Evan Fournier. And you guys just keep dismissing him. You don't even want to talk about him. You're underrating the trade. He's a perfect fit with this team. You have to pay this guy whatever he wants this offseason.
Bobby, here's my thing with Fournier.
Whatever he wants?
Your points are good. But yes. Bobby, the thing about Fournier, since he's been a Celtic, he's either been the guy that you're talking about, really, really good, or a complete dumpster fire. There's no.
But there's been more good than bad.
He's at the one opposite end of the spectrum every game. Really great or really trash, and that. I don't like that about him. I like the Fournier we saw tonight, and the one that we've seen the last 4 or 5 game, Bobbies. I like that guy, but he needs to keep it going for me to feel confident and comfortable that he's a potential solution down the road. Because even before the COVID stuff was he was diagnosed with that. He's had some pretty trashy games, and it wasn't just because he didn't know the players. He was missing shots that a guy like him should not be missing. Had nothing to do with play calls, had nothing to do with comfort level, just missing shots. I want to see him keep this up. I would like to see him in the playoffs. I would like to see him do well in the playoffs. But again, I'm not sold on him just yet. I'm not.
And let me say
I
one
like
thing.
what I'm seeing, but I'm not ready to buy. I want the lease to option, lease to purchase. I will lease him now with the option to buy later. That's how I feel about it.
That's exactly what this season was supposed to be, the leasing option, and it's just gone completely haywire ever since they acquired him. But I will also say this: you want to pay? Would you rather pay Fournier whatever he wants, in Bobby's words, or do you say, you know what, this Neesmith kid is really coming in his own here, and we have him under control for the next 3 years at a fraction of that, whatever that price is, $20 million or $20 million a year, whatever Fournier is going to cost, and I think now you're kind of weighing the options here. Now I understand you don't want to just lose Fournier for nothing like they just did with Hayward, and they're going to be in the tax, so like it limits who they can go and sign. So there's a lot of other factors at play here. But to just simply say, "Oh, Fournier, here's a blank check, buddy. Whatever you want, we'll sign you for a 4-year deal."
That's the leverage he has as a free agent. Now,
yeah, that's the leverage that's in.
Luckily, I don't think there'll be huge demand for him around the league, and that's what the Celtics can wait out on. But if they bring him back at the same price, I'm happy with that, or even $1 or $2 million more. It ultimately doesn't matter. It's just how deep you're diving into the tax. I like your point on Neesmith. That's where I come back to Smart. If it comes down to those three guys and you're thinking about getting Neesmith some more opportunity, you're thinking about Smart's future here in Boston, what you're going to pay him beyond next season, I think you get ahead of that one, because that is another guy you can end up losing for nothing in the ensuing offseason. I don't know what his value is going to be at this point. I thought that should have been done at the deadline. I thought that was the prime place to do it if you're going to get aggressive with a guy like that. But again, they're going to be in a tricky position here. They can bring everybody back.
If they trade Smart at the deadline, you would have lost your shit.
Well, it would have depended for who. I don't think Gordon was the guy.
You would have lost your asshole.
Would have flipped out.
Because you wanted them to do pretty much what they did, which was bring in some talent and make a run for this. And if they trade Smart, that's got like trading Perk vibes to me. Like you just kind of blow it up. And the difference is this team really wasn't trending in the right direction anyways at the deadline, but neither was that Celtics team when they traded. Well, I don't know. It was a little different.
They were in a great position when they traded him.
Yeah, we all know what happened once they traded Perk. They fell apart. And I could have seen that. I could see that same thing happening if they traded Smart. Not that it's been that great since the deadline. It certainly hasn't been. But at the time, we all would have been like, "What do they do? What are they? What direction are they trying to go here?"
Well,
I don't know what Smart's value is either.
What I like about Fournier is he's solid. He's usually in control. There are those games, and Sherrod mentioned it, and even his playoff pass, which I think is tough to draw conclusions from because it was with the Magic. He did have a lot of stinkers in the postseason there. So the playoff, his performance there would be critical to that decision. I just think he almost fills a Hayward role with this team, and it's so critical to them. 8 assists. Not even handling the ball as a primary ball handler guy is extremely impressive to me. And the Celtics had a pretty good assist night tonight. Their offense was doing everything it needed to do, largely because of him.
Yeah, I mean, Fournier had a good game, and he's had a nice run of late. You look at his last 4 games, he's averaging high teens, low 20s, scoring the ball, spraying the ball around, making sure guys are getting the ball, and that's great. But to your point, Bobby, and you know this, and we all know this, the playoffs, completely different animal. And when he's had the opportunity in the past, he hasn't performed well. He hasn't had a lot of opportunities. I get that. And unfortunately, it looks like he's not going to get a lot of opportunities this year either, the way the Celtics are trending.
It's true.
But Fournier, a good player, but I'm not sold on him because, again, I'm looking at his whole body of work since he's been a Celtic. I'm looking at pre-COVID, post-COVID, and where he's at now, and he's trending in the right direction. Absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But we all know that even though he's playing better, how much is he impacting winning? How is he making the plays? And again, I'm not putting the losses on him because it's not his fault solely. But there are moments in almost every game where he'll make a mistake, whether it's a blown defensive assignment, whether it's a turnover, whether it's a missed shot that he should be making, that plants a little seed of doubt into whether this is a guy that's going to get you over the hump. The bottom line is this: Fournier is a very good player, but am I ready to anoint him as the Gordon Hayward of this team, the guy that can get him over the hump? No.
That's what I come back to. So you're going to sign Fournier and bring back a team and pay a massive tax for a roster that we know isn't good enough to even get you to the Eastern Conference
Well,
Finals.
do you want to be a worse team and pay the tax? You just got to bring in the best team you can.
Well, that's the key word, Bobby, team. That doesn't necessarily mean you got the best players. You got to have the best team. That needs to be more of a focus than necessarily having players with certain skill set and talent. Like, as we've talked about ad nauseum, they need tough guys. They need guys who, as Jimmy pointed out, they need some assholes in this roster.
Oh, you know what? And this, again, I said this when it happened, but Trevor Ariza on the Heat, I mean, look at what he did tonight. It cost them nothing. That's a champion. That's a veteran. He goes out and finds his spot. Yep. And defends Tatum well, plays his role on both ends of the floor, and I thought was so critical to this win. You guys were confused why I was so mad when the Heat did that and got him for nothing because it's just Trevor Ariza. That's the kind of guy the Celtics need. A bench guy
Trevor
like
Ariza
that.
From 7 teams ago.
Yeah.
Trevor Ariza from 7 teams ago. They saw tonight.
Yeah.
Today.
Because you know what? Somebody, whether it was Spoelstra or I don't know, maybe they had it in their hearts and themselves, got up for this game. Miami understood that Boston should be coming out and playing for their lives, and instead they came out and played horse or 21. I don't know what they were playing, JV.
But you know what, guys, though?
Right now.
Nick,
this is what happens when you have veterans. Veterans understand what sense of urgency is about. You look at Miami's veteran players, they played like this game really mattered. You look at Trevor Ariza. You look at Jimmy Butler.
We talked about that a couple nights ago. The team has enforcers. Like that's, guys like Iguodala last year, those guys that are going to enforce everyone to stay on the
I love that team.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Well, I think it's almost time for the locker room, man, because the rage is
bubbling up. I can see it.
All right.
I can see it too.
Forming in Nick's glasses.
One last thing, guys. Brad Stevens. How are you two feeling about Brad? Nick and Sherrod, and then we'll carry on the conversation after you guys head out. How do you feel about Brad? Did anything change after this game and his approach? What's your take on this?
Look. There's nothing that I saw today better or worse from Brad. This is who he is. This is his team. This is what you're getting.
Fair enough. Hey, here you go,
Nick. My take. It won't be that short.
Yo, Nick, what was the Matrix like? What was it like?
Wait here. Hold on a minute now. Let me tell you about Brad. Okay.
Go ahead.
Why, is there like a screen on my camera?
No, nothing, bro. You're perfect. Go ahead.
So listen, Brad Stevens. Here's my thing. It's just that. If you can't motivate and manage, it's the same thing I've been saying. Can't motivate and manage talented big egos. You're not made for a head coach in the NBA. I can't figure. The most frustrating thing about this team is you guys keep saying bad roster. It's the same roster as last year, and it got better at the trade deadline. So. Something is clearly
same roster as last year. They lost Hayward.
Who's not here? Ennis Cantor. Don't say Hayward. Please
Fournier was an appropriate fill-in for Hayward.
Why?
Oh, he just said Hayward. I said don't say Hayward, please. No, I'm just.
Well, it goes against your point. It's the same team. And stop calling Fournier.
Hayward didn't play at the playoffs.
Yeah, he didn't play in the playoffs. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Going back to Bobby's point on Fournier, how Fournier is a fill-in. He's not a fill-in. It's not interchangeable. Like, he replaces Hayward completely. He's a lesser player. We can all agree on that.
No, but if he plays, he's a better player because Hayward didn't play, Jimmy.
Okay, yeah.
Fair point, but they need Brown. They need this whole cast intact. And
they need Brown and Howard. Let me do the Brad thing real quick, and then I'll go, and you can talk, Bobby. So basically, we're screwed. Because you can't change people's mentality. I keep saying culture and getting made fun of, but you know what? I should get made fun of because they don't.
In conclusion, we're screwed.
Yeah, we're screwed. Like Brad has job security. Danny and Wick are behind him. I don't think there's a great candidate to replace him. Tatum is too cool for school. Something's got to go there. Brown needs to be empowered. I agree with Bobby on Brown being empowered. And God, please don't give up Marcus Smart. Because I'm not even going to watch that. I might as well watch like a merry-go-round because this is ridiculous. This is not basketball. On that note, I'm heading to the locker room. Who's Sean? How are we doing this, Joe Flay?
One and only.
Yeah, you can just pop out.
All right, I pop out. Bye.
Go start it up.
I'm leaving with him.
Oh,
I'm done.
You're leaving with Nick? Oh, T's and P's, baby.
Come on, give us your Brad. Give us your Brad take.
I told you. This is what you're gonna get.
He leads with him. I think that's what he meant by that.
This is what you're gonna get. This is what you're gonna get. What you saw today is exactly what we've seen all season long. No one should be surprised. No one should be shocked or overly dismayed at what you're seeing. This is how this team is responding to his coaching in the absolute biggest game of the season. You don't even have to like point your fingers and say this, that, or the other. The proof was 48 minutes of Celtics basketball this afternoon. Giving up 130 points to a team that at best you can call average offensively. At best, a team that allowed you to shoot damn near 50% from the field your damn self. This is how you respond at home.
Gerard, have you seen,
in a game you need to win. But,
have you seen a team drop 79 points in the first half? I'm trying to remember if the Warriors did it.
I can't recall seeing a team get lit up like that. Not in a half.
I don't think I've ever seen it. Right? Not in a half. I think I remember Golden State had like 75 ones, something like that. But 79, I've never seen it before. It's crazy.
At that point, 75, 79, bottom line, you got your ass kicked bad. Either way. Either way.
Same shit. All right, Sherrod, we appreciate you guys.
Yo, I don't think we
locker
have.
Room's already popping, guys. So head over to the locker room and download the app if you haven't already.
I was just gonna say I don't think the room's open yet, so I think Nick's working on opening it up now. So we might have.
Oh damn.
To go here.
I'm working on
it. Open that room up.
I'm working on it. I promise.
Whoa! We didn't tell him to come back in here.
Nick, send a text next time, man. We appreciate you coming back, but send a text.
Yeah, he's got a little too much power. Can we like freeze his ability to come back in like that? Because that was scary.
He came in hot.
He's got all the powers. Can't stop him.
I don't know what happened, but I think after you go less than 5 people, my camera just gets so much better. Like, check it out. Oh,
looks good. Yeah.
Wi-Fi at its best. Rockton Wi-Fi is not taking Mother's Day.
Damn.
It's booming right now.
Get that Bobby, Sunday evening glow up going on. Okay.
Where's Bobby stand on the Brad Stevens meter? Where are you? Did anything change before? After this game?
I'm where I've always been. I think this is just a continuation of everything I've said. The experimentation, the team not necessarily being in sync with how he wants them to play, and of course them not having the defensive fortitude to stay competitive in these games. It's just crazy. You think of how they played in the second half. They were there with Miami play for play. They were making big plays. Grant diving on the floor, Nesmith scooping up a ball to begin the fourth quarter. They did everything they needed to at that point. But when you're down by 26 to begin that, it's like, what can you do? Miami just has so much room for error at that point. So the fact that this team all season long has gone down by those massive deficits is another point against Brad, his starting lineups, his rotations as a whole. Something just isn't working there, and the players have a big involvement in that. But at the same time, you're missing Jaylen Brown in a game like this. That's a significant piece. If you pretty much have no Rob like they did here, that's a ginormous loss. And the Heat were essentially fully healthy outside of Oladipo. So they keep running into teams that are fully loaded while missing 2 starters in their own. So that's the leeway that Brad gets. They were never healthy at any point this year, and that's the only reason I'm not taking that next step to say fire him.
That's his saving grace. If Ainge and Brad have a saving grace, it's based on health. But that being said, they haven't been decimated to the point where like they haven't had season-ending injuries. Like there are some teams out there that have lost guys for the season, right? And they've had some really, really horrific things happen. And the Celtics have had things happen throughout the course where they should be able to compete better than they have, even when they are down a guy or two in any given game. And I'm not, listen, if you're down Brown and Tatum, or Tatum and Kemba, or Tatum and or Brown, or that combination of players, then I can understand it being difficult. But for me, it's the effort or the lack of effort or the lack of consistency, defense, intensity. It just feels like the togetherness hasn't been there all season. And like Sherrod said, this is the team they are now. Healthy or not, even fully healthy, I'm just still not convinced that this is a team that could just get it together and play team basketball and, follow what Brad's, style of, or strategy is for that game. I just haven't seen it at all. And when there's a little bit of adversity, this team shrinks. They don't rise to the occasion. They don't overcome it. They they do what you would expect, which is to just sort of sleepwalk through the first half, or even worse sometimes, and might make a little bit of a comeback in the end, but it's always 99% of the time they come up short, and this has been the entire season. So it's been very frustrating to watch from start to finish, and this is who they are. I don't see that changing, and next year if they bring in some different players and a fresh start, and if they do have some health, yeah, I would be willing to give Brad another chance at it. But I don't think that his job. I always thought his job was safe from start to finish this season. I don't necessarily think that's the case next season. If things go south during the season, I could totally see a mid-season change happening.
Yeah, and you got to put someone in place at that point who can take over, and we'll see who that is.
Well, because with everything that they had to deal with, I don't think he's on the hot seat. But I mean, barring, we talked about a couple of nights ago, barring was it mutiny? That's how John put it, a team mutiny. That's the only way. That's the only way it happens.
Would you rule that out at this point if that ends up happening right after the season? Like, that would just be so expected at this point, given how everything's gone to this point.
I wouldn't rule it out, especially if they don't make it into the playoffs. If they fall into the play-in tournament. Or even if they're bounced out of the first round, again, we talked about it a couple of nights ago. 2-3 weeks removed from a season ending like that, you could be a moment of clarity for someone like Tatum or Jaylen Brown.
You know what's difficult though?
Regardless of what this team looks like next year, the one thing that we all agree on is that we don't want Brad to be our coach.
You know what's difficult about that potential situation though is, what do you think Ainge would do if they did that?
Just get pissed off and then.
I don't know what he would do.
He would just say no. He'd keep him. He wouldn't.
I don't know. I mean,
I
don't think so, Bobby.
I mean,
Jimmy,
I think he would just keep him and say, you guys have to deal with it.
Nah, I think Danny's been in the NBA long enough in the front office to know that just doesn't work in the NBA. The players run shit. It's always going to be the case.
I don't think that's how the Celtics want their thing to run, though. Like, they've never done anything like that to accommodate guys. They've always been about the organization, the coach, the GM, the Celtics brand, Celtics culture, that kind of stuff.
They've been about the players too, though. I mean, I think a lot of times. I mean, I know Danny Ainge isn't scared to trade a player, but don't forget the long history of absolutely elite players that have come through this organization, not just the 70 or 50, 60, 70, 80s, 90s, but the last 10, 15 years, there's been a lot of players that have come through here that have made the franchise or continued that legacy on. So I think the players do matter. Let me ask you, Bobby, what would happen to Danny Ainge if word trickled out that he was told that by the players that they wanted Brad to go? He said no, and now the players want to go. What do you think would happen to Danny Ainge? Do you think Wick would keep Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens and trade away Tatum and or Brown?
That's the key question. Where does Wick stand on all this? The only thing we've heard from him this year is that Ainge is safe, Stevens is safe no matter what.
It's not even close to me. Is Brad Stevens selling a?
I wish I brought this up earlier. Did you hear the interview that he had on CNS? Or did you watch the local? I mean the national.
Who?
They were Wick. When he was talking about Tommy, he was great. And then they started asking him about the team, and I was like, Wick, you don't even sound believable, remotely believable. How do you feel about this?
I missed it.
They're asking him about the two games against the Miami Heat. And he's like, guys, with this team, I feel good about this roster. I feel confident. I'm like, Wick, you don't believe that?
I didn't see that.
I didn't
see that. That's interesting.
Yeah. And every time they would go back to another topic, and then he would tell a Tommy story, and they would go back to the team. He just felt uncomfortable, and I feel like he's confused as well. Like, he's not quite sure what the next step that he can make to make this team better. I mean, it's not like
that's a scary thing. The answer isn't easy
now, but how Wick is. The way we've seen this team, the wheels are turning. He's got to at least start thinking about potential steps, whether it's getting new talent or whether it's replacing the key guys that he has in their positions.
They can make
Brad Stevens one of those guys. Like, that conversation is going to continue. That narrative will continue until the offseason for sure.
They can make mild changes this offseason, but nothing significant that it's going to overrule what everybody in place here has to change about themselves, top to bottom. Brad, Ainge, Tatum, Brown, all these guys, Smart. And the fact that they haven't even shown glimpses of figuring that out this year has been very concerning, because they're going to have to do it next year. And what's the hope next year if things don't go right? There really isn't any. So that's why Wick is nervous.
Right, and we also don't know how much Wick has had a hand in everything that's gone on over the last year. We always talk about Ainge, but Wick has final say in a lot of things that goes on, and he may be pulling some of the strings. Historically, I don't think that's been the case. I think he gives Ainge pretty much free reign to do what he thinks is best, but we just don't know. We don't know if the tax has been an issue or if it's going to become an issue.
Is that what he was nervous about, the tax bill coming in?
Well, could be. I mean, listen, it would be pretty hypocritical for Wick to criticize the team if he's had a hand in, constructing it, right? So I don't know if that had anything to do with what his comments are. I didn't hear his comments. First I'm hearing it through Joe Sway, so I'll try to look those up later and try to interpret them on my own. But it's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
Like Bobby said, it's going to be a huge offseason for all these guys. But I think if it comes down to player or coach, Brad Stevens isn't selling one single ticket. And that's not a knock on Brad Stevens. That's every coach in the NBA. It's a players' league.
Right.
They make the money. That's what this has always been about. And I'm not saying it's going to come down to it, but if it ever did, Danny Ainge ever got a knock on the door from Jason Tatum saying, hey, it's just not working with the coach we have. We want a new one. I'm not saying Danny Ainge would be thrilled about it. I'm sure he would be, really torn. But at the end of the day, he's going to do what's best for the team. And if it comes down to Brad Stevens or Jason Tatum, I think everybody in the world knows which side it's going to end up falling on. So I hope it doesn't come to that. But if it did, I know that answer.
Plus, Bobby, would you fault Danny for doing something like that? I mean, it's not like Tatum. We're using Tatum as an example, but I don't know, Tatum, Brown, whichever. Obviously, key guys like that, the core guys. It's not like they've had Brad Stevens for a year or two, right? I mean, if you're Danny Ainge, you have to seriously consider that, because you're like, well, wait a minute. He's got a strong point. These guys have had plenty of years together, and they've made deep playoff runs. If he's not feeling it, I mean, how can I spice this up anymore? I mean, it's reached the point of no return. If you're Danny Ainge, that you have to seriously consider it.
No, that's kind of the easiest move to make, so I wouldn't fault him at all. And it's one that could immediately pay dividends. But you got to know the next guy. You really do. And hopefully he's at least been thinking about that, drawing up ideas. But I just don't get the sense that he has. He's had full support of him all year. There hasn't even been hints of there being questions about Stevens' job. In fact, when there were the biggest questions rising, he jumped on the radio and said, oh, he signed 6 years, so there's that. And that was basically his attempt to shut that down for years, never mind the months ahead. So he's not going anywhere.
Well, no one expected a college to offer him $70 million, so he had to shut that down real quick. He had to get something out there to let people know that he wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to do last thoughts and then get out of here or what? I'm a little nervous.
Thoughts.
I'm a little nervous with Nick holding it down over there in the locker room. So
yeah.
I think we all are. But you know what? Tuesday, big matchup. Hopefully we see Jaylen Brown. I'm thinking we see him. I'm going to go on a limb and guarantee it. How about that? Guarantee. I'm not guaranteeing a win, but I'll guarantee Jaylen Brown will be in uniform Tuesday.
Okay.
Bobby,
sure as hell need him.
I know. I'm going to be there too. So hopefully me saying that is good luck.
I feel better about a win on Tuesday for sure, especially if Brown is back in there. But at this point, 2 games back, Minnesota after that, New York after that. I'm in playing mode at this point. I think that's where they're headed. I don't think there's a great path now to avoid it. So get ready for the Hornets. The Celtics have 1 game in the loss column on the Hornets too. So at this point, you're not only worried about avoiding the play-in, you're worried about avoiding a play-in on the road in Charlotte. So that's what you have to really take care of business for over this final stretch here, because the Hornets are going to be pushing to try to – now the Celtics have the tiebreaker over the Hornets. That gives them a 2-game edge, but – you still have to fight like hell to avoid going to Charlotte, because if it's in Charlotte and Hayward's back and Melo's back and Rozier's rolling, who knows what could happen. And then if you lose that, you got to run up against Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal and do that whole thing again. So it is not going to be easy, whatever path this team takes. Play-in, not Nets, Bucks, 76ers. At this point, it's just, can the Celtics figure it out? Doesn't seem to be enough time left, but if Brown comes back, that's going to be a big difference.
Yeah, my final thought is I want to say just a tough look for the Celtics today. This is a Sunday, Mother's Day, day game, national TV. You had people from all over the world able to watch the game today because of the time of it, a 1:00 game. So you've got Europe tuning in, and And I
Great
got some
point.
tweets. I got some tweets from people who were who were fans of the show and watching from other parts of the country. And I had one person who I want to give a shout out to. His mom tweeted me and said her son Dylan is a big fan of the Celtics and was disappointed in the performance today, but he's still going to keep cheering them on because that's what good fans do. So I want to say that's a great message for Dylan. He's turning 10 this week, so happy birthday to Dylan. Thanks for watching the show, and hopefully
happy birthday,
Celtics.
Dylan.
Yeah,
Appreciate the
happy
support.
birthday, and hopefully the Celtics can give you a good birthday present this week. Maybe they can pull off a win. That would be nice. And I want to say also just happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
Happy Mother's Day for sure.
Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, Celtics fans, non-Celtics fans, all the mothers out there enjoying their day, man. They got a beautiful day. So, we still got some time to enjoy the evening.
Still got some time to salvage it.
I know. I got to head over. I'm going to
bounce out of the garden and go spend some time for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to bring the locker room with me, or I should be on the road as I'm tuning in / chiming in when I can. So I'll try to keep it down with the background noise. But guys,
same here, Jimmy.
That's where we're heading, guys. That's where the party continues. Head over to the locker room.
It's going to be a Jimmy and Nick party.
Bobby, Nick's already in there. Sherrod, I'll be in there. I'm heading over, guys. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. No, see you guys this upcoming Tuesday, not next Tuesday. Next game is this Tuesday. And, of course, you know where to follow us on all social media platforms at CLNS Media for plenty of updates. And, guys, that's it. We're up out of here. We'll see you guys then.
Peace.
Next time. We'll see.